great to see such a good crew here. We will have EGLE joining to give a brief overview of the program and why we're here. And then we'll take a deep dive into what the SEED awards are, project eligibility, some of the details around what stage of project do we want to see, what are example projects that may get some wheels turning, as well as some of the details around what to expect if you do get the SEED award. Matt Flechter, he is the Recycling Market Development Specialist for EGLE, and he's really been pioneering this program 5 years ago now, going on 6 years ago. NextCycle first started, so the Seeds Award are something that we really want to have to support all of the work happening around building Michigan's circular economy. And leading up to this, there's been a lot of buildup in the state to make this program happen, along with all of the work that each of you are doing, and I'm excited to learn about. But Matt, I will hand it off to you to welcome folks and share more about why EGLE's prioritizing this program.
You put at your curb or a business puts at their loading dock, those waste materials, they make their way into new products made in Michigan. And the way that we do that is through NextCycle. It's through our infrastructure grants. It's through creating conditions where your businesses and your ideas can thrive in Michigan. And we do a lot of support, technical assistance, but the first thing that we do, as Kira's shown on the slide here, is we have good data. And we know that we have about a $33 billion potential economic output. We know that there's about 6.8 million tons of opportunity being wasted because those materials are finding their way to a landfill instead of circulating in our economy. We work on infrastructure, education, good policies, and making sure that we get the funding into your hands to grow your ideas. And we do that in a systems approach. We think about the recycling system as a way to grow our markets. In our market development work that we do, it's really about making sure we're either meeting the demand of end markets so that they have quality and quantity, the quality and quantity of material they need, or we work on getting that demand pull. So we're providing the supply, or we're getting the demand pull with new ideas, new products, new things that are made from recycled materials. And that's what the seed grants are all about. Really making sure that we're filling the gaps that we know exist in collection and processing and in markets. And these seed grants, they're not meant to be to solve all these problems. They're meant to have you ask a question and be able to answer it so that we can begin you on the pathway to getting additional investment and getting your project successful. So those gaps, as I've mentioned, we talk about whether it's collection on organics or difficult to recycle materials, or those traditional materials like paper, metal, glass, and plastic, or making sure they're being processed effectively and safely, or making sure that we have those supply and demand pull that works in the recycling system. So that's what these are all about. And I'm really glad you're here to learn about this grant opportunity that we've worked really hard to get in place to make sure that it's going to be as efficient as government can be, and make it as easy for you to get the resources that you need to get your idea launched.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, Kira.
Thanks for jumping in, Matt. And
Yeah,
it's
for
awesome
sure.
to see so many familiar faces on the call too that are already doing some of this work and are familiar with NextCycle and this ecosystem that we've been building. So we'll get into the fun stuff now. But the SEED Awards, this program, we have 300,000 available in funds to distribute, which is funded by EGLE. 0% zero match required. These are really small awards, so $8,000 to $10,000 projects for earlier stage work, small scale pilots. But in addition to the award, we do have 10 hours of technical support, which will be going towards each awardee. So you'll come in with your project of we're purchasing these things, but you'll also get access to NextCycle staff to provide support to you along the way, whether that's, going through data, whether that's prepping for, improved business models, whatever that may look like, that'll be a resource to you that'll get scoped if your project's selected for an award. So that's high level what we're working with. But in terms of eligible projects, which I know is a hot topic from the poll that we had at the start of the call. So this is a really broad scope. So anything from new technology, whether that's robotics, AI, utilizing recycled content, and how can we bring new approaches to the materials that currently exist or could exist, and how we're innovating around that. All of these come down to like logistics and some of those details too. And there's a lot of supply chain adaptation that we may want to pilot or even start scaling out. Organic material is included in this award program as well, whether that's food scraps or wood waste, yard waste, some of these other materials that, as many of us know, have a large carbon footprint that we want to address. And then reuse is also something that we're continuing to prioritize as we do more of the upstream innovations, whether that's related to textile reuse, whether that's related to reusable containers. There's a lot of different forms that that can take. I will note tires and electronic waste are not included in this award program. So EGLE does have other programming for those materials. So that's not prioritized in this opportunity right now, but other materials, it's really broad in terms of what types of projects we want to see. And then in terms of project stage and where the project is in its maturity, we are looking towards some of those earlier stage projects that you may be doing some of the research or getting your footing and what that project will look like, but also starting to scale, getting pilots rolling out, engaging with some of your target audiences, getting some of the initial like supplies or equipment to launch your program. So those early and growth stages are really what we're prioritizing for this award opportunity. And I do have some exciting projects to share. This was actually Emmett County worked on a food scrap collection station. So they participated in the NextCycle Michigan Accelerator and received a harvest grant following that. So this was a $5,000 project that they built the shed, got the containers, got the signage, started rolling out educational material to the community so that they could collect food scraps more effectively. And Elisa, you may have some tidbits about this project if you want to share a few extra things of how it's going.
Well, I'm going to say that Emmett County has been running food scrap recovery programs for a number of years, but has availed itself of a number of EGLE grants along the way, as well as foundation grants, as long as its own enterprise funding and contract for services to help fund the growth of their programs. But I think it's pretty incredible seeing how they came out of NextCycle Michigan with that harvest grant, how much you can do with $5,000. I mean, they already had the compost facility. They already had collection vehicles to tilt those carts into them. But this just demonstrates how cool you can create this drop-off station with $5,000. So yeah, so you can do a lot with a small amount of money.
Yeah, so just something to get the wheels turning. And consider what's possible with the $8,000 to $10,000 award. Some other options may be research and testing. So ROCO was another one of our harvest grantees that had $5,000 to get some of the equipment and supplies they needed to do testing to get a master batch of a ionic compatibilizer, I think is their terminology, that now they can start working with brands to integrate that into some packaging designs to increase the recyclability. So they're now set up to move forward. And I think in terms of the SEED awards, we really do want to support projects that are getting tangible things, whether it's a pilot like Emmett or even being ready for the next stage in that growth trajectory for your work. Another example may be document shredding added to an existing program that you have, whether that's in your business doing on-site document shredding, or if you are public sector with a drop-off center, you may want to expand some of your services, and that could be purchasing the shredder, some of the fencing for document security, surveillance cameras, and even some of the promotion material around it. So those are just some initial ideas of some of the types of projects that we'd really love to see through the SEED Award program, and some examples of how the funds may be used. But getting more into the weeds here, in terms of eligible expenses, yes category, equipment and supplies. So, Emmett County had the shed that they constructed, they had the signage and materials. Roco had the lab equipment and some of the supplies that they were using for testing, which research and testing is eligible, which I think an important component here is that labor is eligible. Some other grant programs and award programs don't include labor, but this does. So research and testing time can be accounted for, or if you're running surveys, stipends can be provided through the award funds. So data analysis and collection, that may include survey expenses for some of the fees for like a SurveyMonkey or some of those other platforms, but also, the time to design an effective survey, or to go through an analysis if you're working with someone to compile a life cycle analysis, at least high level, that could be covered in this program. Of course, we don't work in silos. Marketing and promotion is a huge component of a successful program. So that being integrated into any of your projects is really important. A standalone education program is less prioritized for this opportunity, but we definitely want to see that integrated into any of the work that you're doing. Travel is also included, noting that it should align with the state travel rates. So that's something that we'll make sure you have access to, and have some guidance around. And then I already mentioned labor, but that also extends to contracted services. If your team might not have the in-house marketing expertise, you may want to hire a contractor to support that work. So that's a little background of what's included. Not included: purchase or rental of property, especially since these are such small awards. That's not included for this program. Any dues, memberships, subscriptions, those are things that are kind of considered more general operating expenses. Same with paid holiday, vacation time, general business expenses. These are things that we would consider you would have operating regardless. So we really want these SEED awards to help you do the extra that wouldn't happen otherwise. And of course, we want any of the expenditures to be in scope of what you design. Conferences and networking fees also aren't a focus of these awards. So really diving into like, what are the supplies and like the tangible things that are going to get your project successful. And I did tease a little bit on the technical support being an added element of this program. So any of the projects that are selected, in addition to the $8,000 to $10,000 award, you will also get access to NextCycle staff for up to 10 hours of technical support. The application, we do ask for some of your input of what do you need so that we can really make sure we're meeting you where you're at. But during the scoping of your agreement and refining your work plan, anything that may need to adjust during the agreement stage, that'll also be the point that we can talk about the best use of that technical support, whether that is business model support, data analysis, communications, feedstock sourcing, partner connections. It can take a lot of forms. So that'll be a really unique element from NextCycle staff, but Matt can also attest, EGLE's recycling specialists also have a lot of connections and in-depth expertise, so they'll also be really closely involved in your projects. So I think that closes out the general project eligibility, types of expenses, and what's included in the award. but something to consider as you're preparing your applications is the selection criteria. So this is published in the application packet and on the website, but value proposition, we really want to understand what you're doing clearly and why is it important? How are you helping fill some of the gaps that Matt was talking about, whether that's collection, processing, some of these new markets that we want to see. So making sure that you're connecting the dots to, Michigan's needs, but even some of your local needs. We do want to see, a good trajectory and that there is a, financially sustainable vision of the project so that it's not just a, one-off and the funds like don't go where you wanted them to. We really do want to see that path to a sustainable project and that you're considering, how it impacts maybe an existing operation that you have or how it's going to be successful to scale. Holistic impacts, this is where we're looking at, the environmental impacts, greenhouse gas emission reduction, economic impact as well, whether that's providing new jobs in your community, whether that's looking towards scaling, equitable wages, to also how your work impacts the community, and how you're reaching your target audiences and how they're benefiting from this as well. So holistic impacts is pretty broad, but definitely an important factor that we want to, make sure that you're already thinking about or already doing. Project team will also be evaluated, so making sure that your team is going to be successful in executing the work and is prepared for success long term. And then project readiness, this is going to go back to some of the scale of the project, making sure it's a good fit, but also that you've got a really clear work plan and these are the 10 steps that need to happen to make it successful, and that your team is ready to execute once the agreements are in place. And I teased a little bit, but the work plan and budget we do have templates for. So these are provided on our website and in the application, but this includes the work plan, making sure that it has an overview of what you're doing. And I encourage you to be concise in that, and in as plain speak as possible, sharing what you're doing and why it matters. And then the tasks and milestones, being explicit of different phases of the work. These are only going to be 6-month projects and terms. So keeping in mind, what's happening within the award term and even looking ahead of once we do this program, here's what's next. Having some of that captured in that work plan is going to be really strong in terms of the application. And then the budget, itemizing, what your expenditures are, thinking about the EMIT, food scrap container, that initial shed building, the new signage, the collection containers, and some of the education materials. It can be as simple as that. And then identifying which category there are expense tags in terms of if it's supplies and equipment, if it's data analysis, if it's contracted. So happy to work with all of you on building out your work plans and budgets too, to make sure that you feel comfortable in them. And just to close that out with the work plan and budget, being clear and concise and like sticking to what's focused around the project. Many of you probably have larger business models or working on other things that may be tangential to the specific scope of the seed award. So staying close to what the seed award itself is going to help you accomplish will be important, and making sure that there's direct ties. If you talk about these 3 tasks in the work plan, there should be really clear connection to those budget line items that relate to those tasks. And with only a 6-month timeline, being really explicit about what's going to happen in those 6 months and chronological is going to just help the selection panel better understand what your work is and have confidence in the project. With these only being 6 months, you can anticipate these are probably going to start January 26th, work executing. So keep that in mind of, is your project ready to go now and you need the funds yesterday? Or is this something that, a project that can launch in 2026 and be finished in 6 months. So while you're scoping, those are some of the things to be thinking about. And then expenses and activities, just making sure that budget is really relating to the project. If there's marketing things that are maybe bigger picture that don't relate to the seed award, we're probably going to ask you to rescope that or reconsider how that budget can be used. So really right-sizing your budget for the project is going to be important. The award is a range, $8,000 to $10,000. So if your project is smaller, just apply for the 8. Or if you do have real expenses for the full 10, apply for that. But it really is around what you need. And if you are selected, we're targeting 30 projects to be awarded. It likely will be competitive. Last year, circular economy grants had 72 applications. So if it's a similar application pool, it will be a very tight review process, but we are targeting 30 awards. Once the award agreement's developed, that may include some refinements to the work plan. That'll also be the time of like figuring out what your technical support needs are so that that can be predefined. A unique aspect of this award program is that once the agreement is executed, 50% of the approved award will be paid to you. So that's really, you know, a trust in that you're prepared to do this work. Those funds will help you be successful in doing that. We will still need documentation on all of the funds that get spent, but you will have that good faith opportunity to move forward with half of the award up front. Once the 6 months are completed, or if you complete your project sooner, great. That's when we would be having progress check-ins, reporting, and then once we have all of the final reports and documentation of expenses, that's receipts, proof of payment, all that fun stuff. At that point, the remainder of the award would be processed. So, and just to reiterate that, 50% upfront would still need to be tracked of all the expenses, and we're working on setting up a structure so that you can easily track everything that you're expending as you go. But having a really clean budget on the front end is going to help you be successful with that tracking too. And then close of the project, the remainder of the award will be processed once you have submitted all of the documentation for both the latter half of the award and the first half of the award. So. And then in terms of how to apply, we've been talking about the program, but want to make sure you're prepared of where to go. We do use an online portal. I'm sure MRED has a link ready to go to the webpage, which is where you can access the application packet, link to the online portal, and also just get other details about the program. But if you've applied for NextCycle before or another EGLE grant, the profile is shared. So whatever you logged in with previously, that information will still be there. So one of the first questions on the application is just verifying that contact information is the same. And in the online portal, you'll see the different headers for each section. So NextCycle Michigan Accelerator has a different portal, Michigan Grant Portal, EGLE Recycling Grant Portal. So there's different pages, so to say, of the online portal. But under the NextCycle Michigan Grant Portal is where the seed awards live. So if you've already applied to circular economy grants last year, for example, you'll still see that application card in there, and you can just add another to start the application for the seed awards. But online portal questions is also something that we can chat through in the breakout room, or feel free to schedule office hours and we can help support that. In terms of timing, applications are open. And we are all here at this info session. Thank you for joining. And applications will close at the end of July. So there is still time to refine your application, meet with our staff, feel free to send us your draft work plans to get some input on them. Our staff is not part of the selection panel, so it gives us more ability to give you some support and guidance on those. And then August and September will be the review period. So EGLE and some private stakeholders will be on that selection panel to, assess on, is this project a good fit? Does it help Michigan's circular economy? And go through the scoring and evaluation. And then we're targeting October, November for you to receive notification on your award. At that point is also when we'll be talking about your work plan and does this align and what is your technical support going to look like. So that negotiation will happen in that period. So again, anticipating 2026 being the start of your grant award agreement, and being to start the project. So project activities won't be able to start until the agreement's in place. And we have teed up resources. We're here to help you so that you're successful in this. NextCycle Michigan has a plethora of online resources, whether it's maps, whether it's reports, whether it's connecting to what other agencies may have. So there's plenty of supporting material that you can reference to help make your application stronger. The application packet is going to be your best friend. So that is published on the website. This includes all of the detail I just shared on eligibility, types of expenses, types of projects we want to see, project stage, the scoring criteria, a preview of what the application questions are. So that's your everything in one spot resource. About what this award opportunity is for. And then Bridget and I are also hosting office hours. So you can schedule time with us to meet directly and we can answer your questions one-on-one to make sure you get what you need. And that can happen anytime during the application period.